Hey guys and gals, it's Jennifer Edwards coming to you live from Sayreville, New Jersey. I'm so sorry. I actually told some people that I was going to be live today at 1:30 Eastern, and I know I'm like 10 minutes late, I think, because my Fitbit is not working, which I use as my watch, and I'm on my phone, so that's not helpful. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I know I'm a little bit late hopping on here, but you know, did you ever have one of those days where, you know, like you feel like you can't even make up the things that happen to you? Well, I have one of those lives. I definitely am having one of those weeks, which is crazy. Hey, Teresa. So anyway, I wanted to jump on here. I've been getting a lot of questions from a lot of people actually who have kids that have a lot of the same symptoms as mine, you know, and have for a long time, which is very interesting because, you know, it's the same kind of thing that happened with us. It's been several years. It's been 3 years at least for my middle child, probably even longer for my older child, so who knows. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what I've learned since the last time, and sorry, again, I have this tooth thing that makes me feel like I'm, you know, drooling. So I have this weird thing I have to do. Yeah, it's great. But anyway, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about more about our story and what we're going through, what we've learned since the last time I talked to everybody, and you know, kind of where we are. All right. So if you don't already know me, I'm Jennifer Edwards. I am a work from anywhere mom. I have 3 boys who are my biggest blessings and my biggest challenges every single day. And you know, I've been talking about this PANDAS thing because it's relatively unknown, and there are so many people that I think probably need to hear this information, and I thought that by sharing our story and our experience and all of that as we go through it, you know, I may just be able to help someone else not go through so many years of this stuff. So without further ado, I did share a couple of weeks ago a bit of our story so far about my son's PANS or PANDAS. Back then, I thought it was PANDAS because he is suffering with strep all the time. Come to find out, however, that Andrew, my more extreme case, who is 6.5, has had a confirmed very high titer for Coxsackie, which is a virus. And what that means is that, well, what a titer is just high level of antibodies to Coxsackie in his body. And what's really, really interesting about that to me is I don't think that he's ever had it, or at least I never knew that he did. Now, I knew that Nolan had it in the spring, which corresponds really well with the uptick in symptoms that we've seen in Andrew. So it's like the same time that those started. It was right before we went to Mexico. That was where like things really increased for him and kicked up a bit. So as I mentioned last time, I do have 2 boys that I think are going through this. However, I only know Andrew's results, and the reason why is because we have a follow-up visit with this specialist on December 23rd, and really I wasn't going to get any results back, and I tried searching through like Quest and all of that to try to get the results, which I can't seem to do. For some reason they told me there's nothing. There's no results there or tests or anything, so I don't know what's going on, but you know, it's one of those things. I'm like, you know what, we'll just wait for the results. So the reason why I know Andrew's results is because I called this doctor because you know, since Thanksgiving, it seems like our symptoms have gotten so much worse with him. And so I called because I'm a member of several groups on Facebook where they discuss this kind of thing. And we had been giving him ibuprofen, and we even switched the brands to eliminate some of the extra inactive ingredients. If you've seen my post about that, you know, there's propylene glycol and Advil. I had no idea. And then a lot of them do have dyes, but we haven't used dyes in probably like 9 years. We haven't used the ones that have dyes in them. So anyway, we switched them. We used a few different brands. Symptoms didn't get any better. And like I said, around Thanksgiving, they actually kicked up a lot. And so I called the doctor's office and I said, I've been reading online that maybe he needs more than just the ibuprofen. Maybe we need to go to antibiotics. And she said, well, let me check with the doctor and let me see if he has read his blood results, and we'll get back to you. Which, I appreciate, because they could have just given me antibiotics and then they'd be treating the wrong thing. So because it's Coxsackie, they gave us a prescription for 30 days of an antiviral medication, which is, interestingly enough, used to treat things like herpes. But it seems to have helped him as far as his symptoms. Now, interestingly enough, too, I never put two and two together, but he had some cracks in the corner of his lips, or I thought they were cracks in the corner of his lips. They may have been cold sores, I'm not sure, but it aligns with the flare-up that he was having. So my dad is a vitamin freak. We've been taking vitamins for as long as I can remember, and I always knew that it was like a lack of B2 that caused those cracks in your mouth. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's got a B shortage, but it's all related to this whole Coxsackie thing, right? Now, as I understand it, doesn't mean that he's contagious or necessarily suffering with it at that moment, but it does mean that his antibodies are really high, and what that does is it leads to like autoimmune encephalitis, so inflammation in the brain because these antibodies are basically attacking it. So some of the symptoms that we've been dealing with, and especially, oh my gosh, like since Thanksgiving, it's kicked up so much. He's been doing strange things, like, the nurse, when she told me this, that it was Coxsackie, she's like, it's harder to treat because it's a virus, first of all, and it really does make them act psycho. And, she's like, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this. And it's hard. I mean, I'm not going to lie. He really does act psycho, okay? Some of the things he's been doing, right? Licking us, eating ice cubes off the floor in a restaurant where he knows it's gross, okay? And, like, he'll do it and just, like, doesn't care. And, like, he'll get negative attention from us, of course, because, we're like, that's so disgusting. He's been, like, biting shoes, like, acting like a dog, like, picking up shoes in his mouth, sometimes biting our shoes when we have them on. He's been, the past couple of days, I've been really, like, angry with him at school pickup, and also, like, whenever we go anywhere. This morning, I took him to the bagel shop. He had a meltdown because I wouldn't buy him Gatorade. The kid hasn't had Gatorade in probably a year because we just don't drink that stuff. And, today was the day that he was laying on the floor crying because I wouldn't buy it. And then he gets mad and runs out into the parking lot without looking. So the past few days, running out into the parking lot, running into the parking lot at school. And I'm, like, trying to discipline him. And, he'll hit me. He just acts just really silly, limiting food. And then the other really big thing that we've had going on, that seems like an uptick, which is, interestingly enough, that I use that word, tick, but he has, like, these sudden screams that he will do in the car. And I know that I talked about that last time, but it seems like they're really a lot more common now. It's like every time he gets in the car, every time I start the car, every time I shut off the car, anytime we're just driving, he'll just let out a really loud scream. And then there are, like, chains of words that he'll use. Like, a few months ago it was die. He would walk around telling everyone to die. Die, Nolan, die. Or die, die, die. Just, like, screaming. Now the new words are kill me. He'll just walk up to us and go, kill me. Kill me. And it's very strange, and it's very heartbreaking at the same time. And you want to help, but it's hard in this kind of a situation to know what they can really control, and what is like a disciplinary thing or a behavioral issue, and what is really caused by something that he can't control. What it seems like to me is that he just has zero self-control, no self-control. So that's why he's running into the parking lot. That's why he's licking us. That's why, like, he knows things are gross. He just can't stop himself. He's got an overwhelming compulsion to do it. So this weekend, we had some family over for my husband's birthday and Nolan's birthday. They're a day apart. So we had some family over for cake, and I put out a pitcher of water on the table for everyone to drink. And, we poured the water. My son, Andrew, proceeds to lick the top of the pitcher. So I take the pitcher, the top of the pitcher. I mean, he wasn't licking the sides, whatever. I took the top of the pitcher away and went to wash it. And in the meantime, he had stuck his tongue in the pitcher, licked all around it. And everyone was like, I'm not drinking water. And, so of course family has to share their 2 cents about how the kid just needs to be spanked and how we just don't spank him. It's really super frustrating. That's the part, I think he really couldn't control himself. And that's the hard part. So I'm not sure, obviously this antiviral that he's on right now is not working or not doing anything. It seems like, his face is cleared up and things like that. But, as far as behavior, it's not helping anything. So, we'll find out next steps at the end of the month, just before Christmas, we'll find out next steps. But I've been looking into the treatment plans anyway, just to know what's involved in this. And so, obviously, the treatment depends on the severity of the symptoms. And, like I said, Aiden is more on the mild side. Now, Aiden's my 10-year-old. Aiden's more on the mild side of this. Right now, he is doing, incredibly well. And he even has a stomach bug today, which is great. But he's so good, getting dressed on his own, not fighting me, making his own breakfast now. And what's interesting, a month ago, he was like a baby without his blankie. He couldn't pull it together. And, that was when he was between bouts of strep. It seems like he has a really hard time, especially with schoolwork and anything that he feels like is challenging for him. He just, gets down in the dumps and he's depressed and he's like, I can't do it. I'm smart. My brain is making me stupid. He was lashing out at school. There was a day, like I said, that he had picked up a chair to throw it because he didn't like the music they were playing on the loudspeaker. So, I get calls home about this kind of stuff. And I'm like, frankly, I don't know how to help him. So, but thankfully we think we know why. And like I said, he's been doing really well. So he had 2 rounds of antibiotics since October because he had strep twice. And it seems like the second one may have knocked it out. And he's been doing really well. I mean, he still has his hiccups, but he's on the spectrum, right? And still has ADHD. So we're not going to knock that out. So he may not need much treatment, or he may need some additional antibiotics, or they say that, well, I'll get into what they say, okay, for how they fix this. But on the mild end, right, there's obvious impairments as a result of the symptoms. They're limited to only certain circumstances, certain situations and settings. We don't really have any issues at all in school anymore. He's getting certificates home about how his writing is great. Now, mind you, when he has strep or something like that, it seems like he can't write. It's like his ability to write anything is just gone. And just thinking about having to write something, even copying words is a problem for him. And yet now he can write stories and do everything when he's able to. So, that's really interesting. So there's no overwhelming obsessive fears. He doesn't really have anything that he obsesses about that he's afraid of. And, he's been watching Stranger Things. So, I mean, really he could have weird fears right now, and he doesn't. It's just minor disruptions really at home or school when these flare up. And in the meantime, there's not much going on, and it's really manageable with some accommodations that are made. He just, like I said, can't seem to manage his frustration level and gets moody and has lack of belief in his capabilities and just can't write when he has a flare. For treatment, For a very mild case, they suggest antibiotics for long term. So I know there are some children that have been on antibiotics for, a month or sometimes a year. I've heard there's corticosteroids for treatment, and then anti-inflammatory drugs like Motrin or naproxen, and which of course does not come liquid, so that's not happening. If I could teach these kids to swallow pills, our life would be so much easier, because we could also treat this naturally instead of all of the antibiotics, and instead of all of these anti-inflammatory drugs, we could give them things like turmeric and things like that, and and oregano oil and whatever, but they will just not swallow pills. So that's kind of where I am right now. I mean, I'd prefer to do things the natural way, but this is kind of where we're held, at least as far as we are now, right? So right now, like I said, Andrew's on an antiviral for 30 days. Aiden's not on anything. If it turns out in his blood work that his problem is Coxsackie, I'm sure that he's probably going to go the same route. And, we'll see how it goes. I am very eager to see, how that comes back, what comes back out of there. And I mean, I'm sure there are other things. We've tested for several other things too. So I'm sure there are other things in there to learn. We did some genetic testing, so that should be interesting. And we did that only on Aiden. Because his issues have been around for so long. And we want to make sure that, we get to the bottom of everything. So PANDAS and PANS are what's called a semi-acute illness. So like the symptoms can disappear, like I was just saying about Aiden. They could disappear for weeks or months at a time on their own sometimes. Usually it's from antibiotics or whatever, but sometimes just time is recommended. And I don't know what's going to happen with my kids' tonsils. I took Nolan, my youngest, to the pediatrician the other day because he had some things going on. I thought he had an earache maybe. And so I took him to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician was, adamant about not removing tonsils, even though we have like at least 6 confirmed cases of strep in each of them this year. And the thing is, he's like, well, you went to urgent care, and those urgent care doctors, if they didn't have if that swab didn't come out positive, you don't know it was really strep. Well, they said it looked like strep, it acted like strep, and they treated it as strep, even though the rapid strep test came back negative. It's the way it goes. Sometimes they're wrong. So anyway, I don't know what they're going to do about tonsils, but I've heard some really crazy stories about what is hidden in tonsils when you take them out. And so, my gut kind of says, as much as I don't want to put my kids through surgery, my gut says, let's get rid of them. Let's get rid of everything. Let's just not worry about this anymore, because they have strep so much, and strep is going to trigger this every time. So anyway, for Andrew, and I know I'm talking a lot. Michelle, I would love to get a brain scan from Dr. Amen for these kids. Oh my gosh, what I wouldn't do for that. I just don't know how we would be able to fund that at this point. But it would be interesting, right, to see what he could do. For the more moderate case, for like Andrew, he's fine at school. And but nearly all the time with us, he's acting out now. And that's been, since April or so. So it's been, more than 6 months that he's really on edge here. And that's a lot of anxiety. He has, like I was saying, OCD and like poor impulse control, no self-control, extreme irritability. He can go from, like laying on the floor, writhing over, nothing. My story last week was that he wanted a drink of water, and his OT said no until he finished something, because he had just had water, and he wanted more. She wanted him to finish something before he left, and he refused. So he was laying on the floor screaming. My other son brought him a glass of water, because that's how Aiden is, and which, we didn't want to happen. But anyway, Aiden brought him a glass of water, and the next minute he's bouncing off the walls like happy as a clam. So he's just all over the place, right? And increased aggression, like I was saying, he's a hitter, he's a kicker, he'll throw things. That seems like it's down a little bit. I mean, aside from this morning when he was trying to hit me because I said no to the Gatorade, it's pretty much down. Also the suicidal ideation where he was talking, he hasn't really done it in probably a few weeks, but talking about, killing himself with a knife. Now, mind you, this kid's got anxiety. One of his phobias or like extreme fears right now is of knives. So, there was a time that I came out of the kitchen with a butter knife in my hand and he ran like screaming. So, I don't think his threats are real, but you never really know. He threatens to jump out of the car while we're driving. He threatens to jump out windows. He talks about, what would happen if I jumped out the window right now? And, it's just disturbing because, if you don't know what's going on with your kid and why this is happening, you really do think that they're psycho. And it's not a good feeling to feel like you have a psycho kid and worry. So, like, I feel as much as this keeps me up at night, it's mostly about funding and cash and stuff like that. Like, I have no doubt that we can cure this and fix this. It's just about having the money to do it. And how much is it ultimately going to cost? So again, the same treatments would apply to him: antibiotics, antiviral medication, corticosteroids, NSAIDs, like I said, ibuprofen, naproxen, plus there are two different, more extreme kind of treatments that you can get. One is called plasmapheresis, which produces the greatest degree of symptom relief and really fast. And basically what that means is that the plasma in your blood, so the liquid part of the blood, is separated from the blood cells. And apparently the plasma part can contain antibodies that attack the immune system or the brain. And there is a machine that would actually remove the affected plasma and replace with good plasma or artificial plasma. So that's like one option. That, I'm told, the cost is about $1,000 to $2,000 per treatment. And from what I understand, you may need like 5. So it's between $5,000 and $10,000 for that. Or you can do something that's called IVIG. And that's intravenous immunoglobulin, okay? So basically, they pool immunoglobulins from thousands of human donors, and this therapy resets the immune system. So like whenever there's an autoimmune disorder, they can basically replace these immunoglobulins from other people. And the combination of all of that, replaces the bad ones that are in your body, right? It seems to decrease symptoms and shorten the course of the illness in people with PANDAS, but my understanding is that it's not widely used. And some of the risks that are involved in that is that because, there are these human donors, there's a risk of other hidden infections being passed on, and then you're dealing with something else. And for those, a single infusion costs about $3,000 for a child. So, that's obviously the cheaper of the two, but, and apparently you only need one of those. But, like I was saying, if we could go the natural route would be way preferable to this. My struggle, however, because, like I said, they will not swallow pills. And my oldest, I'm not too worried about because I can work with him a little bit. He's outgrowing some of his food neuroses, if you want to say it. He's more open to trying new things and trying new vitamins. And although, he will vomit if I give him a pill to try to swallow, which is a problem. But, he may be willing to drink things with vitamins dissolved in them or something like that. Andrew will just not do that. The other thing is too, a part of, I don't know if you guys know anything about like the autoimmune protocol, but a big part of autoimmune diseases and treating them is by reducing inflammation. And part of the reasons for inflammation in the body are like things like gluten and dairy. So like basically you back out everything but whole foods. My problem with Andrew, my 6.5-year-old, who's more impacted by all of this, is that he will not eat whole foods. The only whole food that he'll eat right now is a banana, which is insane. He will not eat any fruits. He will not eat any vegetables. He won't even eat applesauce. He cut out, since this has been going on in April, he cut out a lot of things. He cut out eggs, and he cut out, he used to like guacamole. He used to like everything, and now he is down to like literally cheese. Even his pizza, he eats the cheese off the pizza, nothing else now. Lives on cheese sticks. So like, this kid, I have my gut tells me that it's the cheese that's got to go. But I just don't know how to eliminate that without him starving to death. And no, I'm not looking for suggestions about how to do that, because, if you're in my shoes, the kid would literally die before he ate something that he's afraid of eating. So, I'm open to trying new things if anyone has suggestions, but as far as like, saying don't buy it and he won't eat it, we haven't had cheese sticks in my house in about 4 months. Guess what? He still eats them. He goes to my mom's house and gets them. It's just it's just hard. But anyway, I wanted to fill you in on where we are, where we think we're going. I'm praying that we don't need these more intense treatments, and that things like the basic drugs and pharmaceuticals and whatever will help us. Hopefully we can get to a point where this kid adds back more than the 5 foods that he eats, so that maybe we can try adapting his diet a little bit, and that would probably help a lot. But anyway, I hope this has been helpful in some way. Hope you guys learned something. And please, 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 if you know anybody who might be able to benefit from hearing this information, from just knowing that even that they're not alone in this struggle that they may be going through, or if they have kids that sound like they may be going through something similar, please feel free to share. And thank you so much for working. I'm reading Michelle's comment, sorry. I wonder if hypnosis would work too, but I don't see him being the kind that would lay for that. Like I can't, I would like to get him, back into going to the chiropractor. I would like to get it, but he's just not, like the anxiety is too much that he would never relax. But I can't say never. If you know a good hypnotist that might be able to work with him, certainly drop me some information. Drop it below, message me if you know anybody who might be able to do that. I'm willing to try anything. I'm willing to try. I just don't know that he'd actually participate in it. I'm wondering even like, Reiki and things like that. But, we'll see. We'll see. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me, for paying, mind to this. I really do appreciate it. In a weird kind of way, I feel supported just by you guys listening to me. So thank you so much. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Have fun. Bye.